Hello and welcome to yet another episode on the series of interviews that we are doing on this critical, really fast developing relationship in the Indo Pacific between India and Australia. Today we have with us a very, very special guest, Asha Bhat OAM. She has worked with the indigenous communities through her organization, Southern Aboriginal Corporation, since 2008. The organization works towards providing assistance and services to the Noongar people across the regions of Western Australia. Her exceptional work has been recognized through many accolades throughout the years, such as the 2017 Albany Citizen of the Year Award, Woman of the Year in the non-profit category for the at the 2020 Stevie Award for Women in Business, and the 2022 Impact 25 winner by Pro Bono Australia. In 2022, she was also awarded the Medal of the Order of Australia, recognizing her work for the indigenous communities. That's why we have the OAM after your name, Asha. Most recently, in March 2023, she was inducted into the Women's Hall of Fame and awarded the Western Australia Multicultural Award uh, of 2023. Asha, we are so happy to have you on board and for you to have taken time out of your busy schedule to be here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I've always got time for our people because I like my identity, where I come from, my root, and our people. So anytime, it's such a pleasure to be talking to you.
Thank you, Asha. One of the great commonalities which I like to point out to our audience right at the outset is the substantial amount of uh, tribal population that we have in India and the Aboriginal population that we find in Australia. Um, but let me get straight down to it. You've worked so deeply amongst the Aboriginals. Tell us about your work through the Southern Aboriginal Corporation. How did it start? What interested you? And where is it heading?
So I started for working for Southern Aboriginal Corporation in 2008. And then in 2013, I was recruited in as a CEO of the organization when the organization was going through massive crisis. So I had to implement a couple of restructure and had to bring integrity into the system and has to raise the governance standards at the time. So through Southern Aboriginal Corporation, we provide programs and services in family domestic violence, suicide prevention, health program, and also youth empowerment program and housing programs. So, Aboriginal people are disproportionately affected by family domestic violence. Aboriginal women are 34 times more likely to be hospitalized because of domestic violence than non Aboriginal women. And they also disproportionately affected by justice system, removal of children, and also suicide. So, to me, like growing up in India, I saw a lot of inequality and disparity. I was always wanting to support disadvantaged people. And when I came to Australia, I started having passion to know about the culture of First Nation people here. So this is like, our tribes too, like, one size fits all doesn't work. We have to take place-based approach. There are different tribes. The place that where I'm living, the traditional owners of this land are Noongar people, and Menang Noongar people. And Noongar Nation is the largest language group in Australia. So I'm very proud to be working on the Noongar Nation and working with and working for Noongar people.
Um, what prompted you to work towards empowering these communities in Australia? Of course, you said that, you'd seen a certain amount of disparity while you were in India, but, they are very, how shall I put it, culturally or linguistically very different from where you come. Was this difficult to bridge?
Oh, it is very difficult. Still I'm learning the culture. It's not easy. It is very challenging because I have workforce, both Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people, that makes it very difficult to bring that balance. To me, like, this country was colonized like India. So there is a lot of impact of colonization and dispossession of land and racism and discrimination, the trauma and the intergenerational trauma that Aboriginal people are going through. I wanted to make a difference in their lives. And there's a lot of gap between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people in terms of health expectancy, education, and employment outcomes. And I wanted to make that difference. I was always passionate about disadvantaged people, and I got an opportunity to work for Aboriginal Corporation, and I haven't looked back since then. It is 15 years since I've been working. I've taken the organization from strength to strength, expanded the service delivery to provide better access to justice system for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women who are impacted by family domestic violence and sexual abuse. So to me, it is about supporting disadvantaged people, making changes, and also, like us, bridging that gap between and building that relationship between India and Australia.
Absolutely. You've mentioned this disproportionate amount of violence amongst these communities. It's very interesting to see that, that it's so disproportionate, the rates are so high. What do you think are the causes of this, and what have you seen through your research?
Well, to me, it's the same thing. It's about the impact of colonization. There is still a lot of trauma, and then there is a lot of substance abuse, and then there is systemic racism that is affecting and impacting Aboriginal people. And also the relationship between the police and Aboriginal community, and also mainstream people. And there are a lot of Aboriginal community controlled organization, but a lot of money is going into mainstream. So there is always request from Aboriginal community controlled organization, is that the funds should flow into Aboriginal community controlled organizations, so that we can provide culturally appropriate services. Aboriginal people are consulted many times by the government agency, but it's not working. It has to be changed. And therefore, like, the new government has come up with like a proposal to have, a voice to parliament. That means, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander will have national voice, and there would be a referendum which cannot be abolished by successive governments.
Could you tell us more about this referendum? You mentioned it when we were having a chat as well.
Yeah. So currently, there is no constitutional recognition for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. By having this referendum, that means so they would have a national voice, and voice is entrenched into the constitution as such. That means they would have a voice, and where they can provide feedback and input into the issue that matters to Aboriginal people. The current system is not working for them. Therefore, we have, like, closing the gap report, where there are a lot of measures, and the gap is not closing, it is widening. So it is not, current system is not working. By having voice to the parliament, having that constitutional recognition gives more power for Aboriginal people to have their say on the issues that's impacting them on day-to-day basis.
Considering that they are such a large part of Australian history, the community, why has it taken so long for such a referendum to happen?
Well, I have no idea about that. Like, it has taken time. Well, but we've got some really strong Aboriginal leaders, and also ministers and member of parliament in the parliament, who are making the difference. But this is going to be an independent body, and it is going to be powerful, and it has to be supported by majority of Australians to get through. It has taken time. It shouldn't have, honestly, but it has taken time.
Do you think that there has been some sort of experience that you have uh, gained out of working with these communities in terms of your heritage, uh, being from India, and them in Australia? Has there been some commonality that you've noticed? Have you built up upon that?
Well, to me, there is some similarities between Indian culture and Aboriginal culture in terms of family values. Because, and extended family, because we also have big extended family. And when it comes to loss and grief too, and we see with our funeral, all those things, we get a lot of people and grieving and those sort of things, it is pretty much similar to our culture. And then working in informal ways, they would really like to sit together and have some feed and yarn, we say, that is more acceptable than have being in the room with the PowerPoint presentation and all. And I see that in our community too. And also, like, I see sometime, they don't turn up on time. It's like we say, we come on Noongar time. We see that in India too, pretty much. I don't want to say negative things about that, but I see that, family is very important to them. And if they have, sisters or brothers and their kids, they treat them as their own kids. So I see that those sort of similarity. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. But I think those are just like social sort of nuances about, being late and being a little bit laid back, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
also quite nice
Yeah.
in its own way.
And the skin color, it always matches for me. Like my skin's color is a brown sort of thing, so I'm not a white person, so I'm more acceptable. But having said that, like I face a lot of challenges too, being a Indian migrant woman and then leading an Aboriginal corporation. It's not easy. It comes up with a lot of challenges. In one way that I can't be included in every community meeting because I'm not an Aboriginal person, so I miss out on few things. But I use a strength-based approach. Whatever difference that I could do, that I would do it. And there are issues, there are some things that I can't be part of it, that I have accepted, and then continue to make that difference in their lives. Yeah.
It is fascinating that, the first thing that strikes out about your CV is the fact that you are not an Aborigine.
Yes.
And that, less so that you're a woman, because, we've seen women in positions of leadership, but as a woman, as an Aborigine, leading an organization is, I think, something that stood out for us also. But, how would you've mentioned that, being a migrant, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and being from India has also been one of the hurdles that you've had to overcome. How would you assess the social impact of the work done by Indian migrants in Australia, like yourself?
It's very significant, honestly. I think we could be the second or third fastest growing migrants in Australia in 5 years or so. In Western Australia itself, we have got 100,000 plus Indian diaspora. We got doctors, we got lawyers, we got teachers, engineers, and working in not-for-profit, having businesses. We have contributed to Australian economy in a significant way. We also celebrate our culture here, celebrate our festivals and all, and we bring other people to be part of it. And it's sharing our knowledge, sharing our tradition, and work in a harmonious way. And the Indian community is one, which works in a harmonious way in state and even in nationally too. And not only that, Indians, like who are working, we got a lot of students coming from India, and they're also contributing to the economy and the university. And my son is a doctor too, and I see that he's making significant impact to people. And it is really good that we have very high caliber people coming and making that impact. Yeah.
Fantastic, and I think it's through people like yourself and your family and, others that, Indians are so well integrated in, societies that they adopt. But let me come towards the end of our interview.
Mhm.
I absolutely think it's great work that you're doing. And with my own personal interest and
Mhm.
I've spent a lot of time studying tribal populations in India. What do you think that we could take from the work that you have done and you have seen? What is it that you think we could do in India as well towards our tribal population and their upliftment?
Well, to me, like, it's about mental health. Like, see, I have migrated from India like about 20 years ago. So there was not a lot of support, when people are impacted by mental health. There was still shame and stigma sort of thing. And I don't know how it has improved. To me, like supporting them in every way and uplifting them is very important. But I really don't know from Indian perspective how many not-for-profit are working with them. There is a lot of services and programs here to support people, even if it is mental health, family domestic violence, like substance abuse and those sort of things. And because I don't know a lot of social issues impacting them in our tribal community, it is pretty hard for me. But I think from women's point of view, like some enterprise where they can be self-sufficient, where they can stand on their own feet, and empowering women, because if you invest in women, they invest in their community. So to me, it's more about women and girls, supporting them, and helping them. Education and employment is very important, I guess.
Well, Asha, that you really summed up really well. When you help women, women give back to communities. I think that really is the key
Yeah.
amongst actually any sort of population across the world, tribal, non-tribal. So
Yeah.
on that note, Asha, thank you so much for taking the time out from your busy schedule. I know this referendum is coming up and you have a lot of work to do. So thank you so much, and we really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, like, really appreciate. Thank you, Ayushi too. Like, she works behind the scene, but appreciate the work that you guys are doing. Amazing girls you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.